In a moment, I'll be talking to the Chief Medical Officer for England, Dame Sally Davis. But first, I'm joined from Manchester by Rachel Kean, who has a family history of mitochondrial disease. And here, Helen Watt from the Anscombe Bioethics Centre. That's a Catholic organisation. Is that the basis of your objections?
Well, we're certainly a Catholic organisation, but many secular people are very concerned about these procedures. We're not talking treatments here. They don't treat any existing human individual. Instead, what we're talking about are deliberately producing genetically modified babies. So we're experimenting on those babies and on future generations.
What's wrong with genetically modifying a baby if it makes the baby and subsequent generations healthy?
Well, the risks that you incur are risks you don't have to take, because the option always exists of deciding not to have a child if you're worried about the risks of natural conception. Instead here we're producing, as I say, babies by very radical techniques. This is not a tweak to natural conception, it's not even a tweak to IVF.
Okay.
You are combining two embryos to create a third embryo, in the case of one procedure, who will be a clone of the first
Let's
embryo.
put that to Rachel Kean. I mean, you know, people have an option not to have children.
Thank you for that. First, I'd just like to pick up on a few things that were said. First, I think it's a deliberate misrepresentation to use this very inflammatory language of cloning, of modification. When you've looked at world-leading scientists, when you look at the Wellcome Trust, they all show quite clearly why that's scientifically incorrect. With regards to why not have your own child, well, that is an option. So is fostering, so is adoption. But if we didn't believe in reproductive choice, why would we have IVF? And indeed, it's more than reproductive choice. We are talking about prevention of disease. And no, this is not a treatment, but the truth is there are no treatments. These are incurable, devastating, debilitating diseases. And what we have here is a potential to prevent those, to prevent suffering, to enable women who have this unbearable burden to have their own children if they so please, and to be able to eradicate that from their future generations.
Helen Watt, why wouldn't you want to help them do that?
Well, I would certainly have every sympathy with people facing difficult decisions about having children.
Not that much sympathy if you say don't have children.
Well, a friend of mine is in exactly this position. She would never dream of having these procedures for ethical reasons and also for safety reasons. The FDA in America,
Hold on, Rachel.
The FDA in America has said that these procedures are not ready for the clinic. The FDA has said that very clearly. There have been international bodies expressing serious concern about germline genetic interventions that will affect generations to come. These are risks we do not have to take. These are risks we should not be taking, and we should be looking beyond the hype to what's actually going on here.
Rachel Kean, I mean, how can you be sure that these aren't genuine scientific risks?
Well, first of all, one of the reasons I can be sure is that we are not in America, we're in the UK, and the UK is known to have one of the most fastidious regulatory systems there are. There have been now 3 scientific reviews, there has been a 6-month-long Nuffield ethical review, there have been multiple public consultations, all of which have been in favour. Now, is any technique completely safe? No, that's the nature of medical advancement. But I noticed my co-partner here mentioned risk. Well, no, we may not know all the risks, but what we do know is the risk of these diseases. And if you look at that proportionate risk, as the Wellcome Trust has shown, as the Muscular Dystrophy Campaign has shown, and as all the scientists across the world have shown, that actually those risks far outweigh. And what we are doing here is a wonderful endeavour. Just like we led the way with IVF, I encourage the UK Parliament to lead the way with this.
OK, well, go on briefly. Yeah.
It is not actually true that the international scientific community is agreed that these procedures are safe. If it were, the FDA would not be saying that these procedures are not ready for the clinic.
We are
the Centre for the Centre for Genetics and Society in the US, which is, hardly a terribly conservative body, is very concerned about these procedures.
Okay.
And the risks that we're taking are risks we do not have to take.
Thank you both very much indeed. I'm going to carry on the conversation now with Dame Sally Davis, who's the Chief Medical Officer for England. Can you clear up some of this heated debate in terms of the scientific doubts?
Let me start with, this is not cloning, it is not genetic modification, nor is it 3-parent. This is allowing families to have an IVF procedure that changes the mitochondria, that has 37 genes that only provide energy to the cell. In other words, the battery pack, the energy pack for the cell to be healthy. Those are quite separate from the more than 20,000 genes in the nucleus, which is sacrosanct, which is what makes us what we are, 50% of each coming from each parent.
Do you accept that there are unknown risks?
There are potential risks, but there were when we tried IVF. A lot of experimentation has gone into this. The animal studies look good. There's one outstanding study that I'm told is looking good, but we need it to finish, and the regulators are watching that. And at the end, it comes down to a risk-benefit discussion, if Parliament votes the right way, between a mother, her partner, and the doctor.
What do you make of this argument of sort of, you can always choose not to have children? I mean, isn't the problem that a lot of people don't know that this is in their bloodline until they have a child with a condition?
Yes, that's clearly true. So you would need to know that you have it in the family. But when I was looking after patients, it was sickle cell disease. I saw what they went through, and this is even more devastating. This is a definite death sentence. And I know most of them did not want other people's children. They wanted their own. I understand this. I support it.
So your advice to MPs is unequivocal then?
I think scientifically it's strong. It's supported by many people from abroad who understand these issues, scientists from abroad. It is supported overwhelmingly by the public when you look at the consultations done by the HFEA, our regulator, and ScienceWise.
Dame Sally Davies, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that, thank you to everybody, is Channel 4 News. Good evening.